Hi everyone, this is Lisette with Pathways English, and I will be introducing you to the G7 Unit 1. These are our older group of children. I wouldn't even say children, they're more like our middle school kids, basically. So this is definitely a different type of PPT and lesson, and it requires a little bit more group work, definitely. And I'll get into that more later on. But let's go ahead and begin so some of you can kind of get an idea of what you're going to be doing and what you can expect from the lesson and from the PPT. And then, of course, each and every one of you will be customizing it, adding your little flair to it, and making it your own. But for the most part, let's just go over it and introduce you to it. As you know, the local teacher is going to go ahead and introduce this to them before we actually get there. They should have a good knowledge of the story. Definitely not something that we're going to wing or, hey, they've never heard this before. This is an older group. It is obviously harder and more difficult information. So the teacher definitely should have gone over this with them. They should have read it a couple times. By the time we get there, it should be more as in we're just answering the questions and, they should be having a back and forth camaraderie with us. But that being said, because this is the older group of kids, you're going to find it very difficult for them to answer individually. You might get, depending on your class, you might get one or two kids that are really good at English and they just want to try. But for the most part, collectively, you're going to run into a lot of shyness with this group of kids. Of course, it's because they're the older group of kids. So before you waste any of your time, I would, at this point, ask the teacher to go ahead and put them into groups. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to use the groups. You can say all the girls or all the boys. Whatever works for you. Since I've been introduced to the PPT and I have taught the class, I will give you some input on my end. And of course, you're going to go ahead and proceed with the way it works for you. All right. All right, so now we are jumping into our very first slide. Obviously, you see this box kind of thing, and you can ask them, what do you see in the picture? The other question that's going to immediately come up is, who are they? You want them to answer, but like I said, don't get too focused on making individual people answer because that's going to be difficult for you. You can say, hey, group one, who do you think it is? Or what do you think is in this box? A lot of them should say, they should be familiar with the story enough to tell you it's scientists or they're in a lab, something like that. So they should know, but I would ask it in the group, definitely. All right, so then we have the children here. In the very top part, it says good night, children, and in the bottom part, it says good morning. You want them to pick up on the fact that we use different greetings at different times of the day. So the way I went about this slide is I asked them, what time do you go to sleep? Do we go to sleep in the morning, or do we go to sleep at night? So according to that, look at the first picture and tell me, would we say good night or would we say good morning? Most of them will say good night. If it's just a simple good night or good morning answer, they might answer. But if it's a little bit more elaborate, they probably won't. All right, the second one, right at the bottom, it says, good morning, children. Are you ready for school? You will not see on the, I don't believe you're going to see the actual good night or good morning. And so that helps them guess if it is a good night or if it is a good morning. But again, on the second question, on the second picture, what I did was simply say they're on their way to school, obviously. So what do we say in the morning if we're on our way to school? Do we go to school at night or do we go to school in the morning? And then, of course, they'll all say the morning, right? All right, so we ask them who they are. And most of them do not know exact names yet, but they will say it's a boy and it's a girl, right? At this point, you can say it's Elsa and Aiden, right? I say Elsa just the way I say it. You guys might say it differently, tomato, tomato, but I say Elsa and Aiden. All right, and then you can ask, why do they call him master? Again, this is probably something that they have already discussed And so they know that he is the scientist that made him, or made them, I'm sorry. So here you can ask a lot of questions and just see if they have a general idea. Our next question is, you can ask them right off the bat, where are they? Are they still at home? Of course not. They're at school. They're in the classroom, right? Once they say school, I'll even probe a little bit more. I will ask them, okay, are they in the library? Are they in the cafeteria? And of course, they'll say, no, they're in the classroom. Our next question, right. Our next question is, who is this woman? A lot of them will know this as teacher, right? This is the teacher. Again, I will read the actual dialogue for them and ask them, when do we say good morning? Do we say good morning at night before we go to bed? Do we say good morning in a classroom in the very beginning of the day? So there are lots of questions that you can ask. I also asked, who are the two boy and girl over here? And of course, because we had just said Elsa and Ada, they knew that, so that works. Here's a question, and I'm going to ask again. This is them introducing themselves to the classroom, and you can ask the girls. I use the girls and the guys in this one instead of necessarily the group, because I will say, girls, can you tell me what does the boys say to Elsa? She's so pretty. And what do the girls say about Aiden? He's so handsome. So you can use a little boy and girl work with this one. Okay, our next slide is, obviously they are not in the classroom. So I will ask them, are they still in the classroom? And most of them will say, no, they're in the playground. Or like I said, you can revert back to your groups if you start to hear crickets. Like if nothing is happening, revert back to those groups because they feel strong in numbers. So you want them to feel confident enough to stand up, or not even stand up, but just to answer in a group. So where are they? The playground. Then you can even go on and ask who this teacher is, or who is this man? They will probably say again, this is the teacher. You can ask, is this the English teacher, or is this the math teacher? No, this is the PE teacher. And of course they are outside, so you can ask them what they are going to do, out here. Some of them will say run. Like I said, they've already looked over this PPT, they've already looked over this lesson, so they should know that they'll be running next. All right, here we have Elsa and Aiden running. You can even ask them, who's running? Who do you think is winning? This is a good chance to give them a second to answer who they think is winning. You can say, girls, is Elsa winning? Or boys, do you think Aiden is winning? Another question that I had for them, and this will come up on the PPT for you as well, is, do they do it very well? And most of the students will probably say yes. And you can ask how. How do we know that they are doing very well? And this is where you have, wow, they're so fast. So if you need to take a second to read that and then ask that question, you can. So we know they're doing well because obviously they are going fast. All right, we are back in the classroom, and you can revert right back to that. Where are we now? Back in the classroom. Who is this woman, right? This is the teacher. She is happy. Why? We can read this again, or you can have them read this. You can say, hey, group 1, you're going to read the left. Group 2, you're going to read the right. Depends on, you'll feel your group out. If they're more apt to raise their hand and say, yeah, absolutely, we'll read, but you might get some really, really quiet ones. So at that point, no biggie, don't stress out. Just continue reading the dialogue yourself and asking the questions. They'll get it. All right, so she's happy because they got 100%. And we can ask, who got a 100%? And hopefully one of the groups will answer for you. And the way that we know that, again, is because the teacher says, well done, Aiden, well done, Elsa. So we know that they are the ones that got the 100. Plus also, they're the artificial intelligence students, so they're going to be way above average. That's why they run so fast. That's why they make 100. But, let's not delve too much into that. Let's just stay with what they already know. All right, you can ask if this is in the classroom again, or on the playground, or is this after school? They will probably answer you after school. On this part, I did like the dialogue part just because there are 2 boys and there's Aiden. So you might want to probe some of them just to do this part. Maybe 2 boys and Aiden. So maybe they feel better if there's like 3 of them standing up. I asked them also in this one if they thought that they were being nice. And then I said, look at their faces. You know, do they look like they're being nice? Are they happy? And most of them will say, no, not at all. All right, they are going to be other students at the school pretty much. So if you ask who are they should repeat, this is, you know, or they shouldn't repeat, but they should definitely answer back to you. These are different students at the school. All right, here's some of our vocab. And I mean, a lot of them will know this vocab because, you know, local teachers are really good when it comes to vocab. So they will probably know this vocabulary pretty well. On this one, we have the scientist. This is an old scientist. This is a new scientist. I'm sorry, not new. Well, he is new because he's young, but a young scientist. And then I have at this point asked them, are you guys old or are you new? So I used that one for the understanding of vocabulary on this one. Here I'll ask them, what is the animal in the middle, of course, and then who are the 2 people on the side. They have usually they have grasped that concept of master, so they definitely will say master. If they don't, and you need to help them a little bit, circle the animal. Like you can circle the cat and say, is this the master or is this the master? And usually they'll pick up on that pretty well. Again, you can use the same idea. If they're having a little bit of problem with who is he, you can ask them, are these the masters on the side, the girls, or is this the master? And they'll usually pick up, no, it's not. The other people are the master. And then servant. This is our pretty and handsome slide. So you can ask them before you show it. Like I said, they should know it. But if they don't, for whatever reason, you can look at the girl and say she is pretty and he is handsome, right? Pretty is for girl. This is really self-explanatory and you can figure out whichever kind of way you want to do that. And the boy is handsome. I will even on this one sometimes ask, can the boy be pretty? And they'll say no. Can the girl be pretty? Yes. Okay. So usually you can kind of flip-flop some of those questions and see if they understand that pretty is precisely for a girl and handsome for a boy. Okay, on this slide, it's a thinking slide. So we are going to read it for them, but we want them to take a second and just think about what's going on in this photo. Good morning, children. Are you ready for school? Good evening, professor. What's in the box? These are all questions, right? Good night. The top one, I'm sorry. Are all questions. And then the good night, children. The morning is your first day of school. This is a thinking one. So you're just going to have them read it again. Maybe you can have 2 sets, like group 4, read this part. Group 2, you can read this part. This is where you're going to ask, why did they use different greetings? We've got a good morning. We've got a good night. Give them a second. I would put them in, let them talk amongst their groups for maybe about 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds. You want one of the groups or all of them to answer that the reason that we use different greetings is because obviously we are different times a day and we have different greetings to different people, right? Again, you can ask the same thing. Why do you have different greetings? This is where they will say we have different greetings for also different genders, right? To Mr. Smith is a male, so we say Mr., and to the girl we say Mrs. And we'll explain why it's a miss and a miss, a Mrs. and a miss further on. All right, on this one, you're going to let them have a quick discussion within their groups as well. They are going to read this, and then you're going to ask them to choose the A, B, C, or D answer. This one takes a little bit of time. I've noticed sometimes it almost takes about 3 to 4 minutes for them to come up with the right answer. We don't have time for 3 or 4 minutes in a lesson this long and this big with so much that we're covering. So give them about 60 seconds just to talk amongst themselves and then say, okay, teacher, let's go ahead and try and get an answer. If they answer wrong, no worries. Okay, guys, let's have somebody else answer, right? The answer is obviously going to be C. The teacher greets the class and introduces the students. So she doesn't just greet them, she also introduces them, and she's introducing the new students. So that's why the answer is that. And if you need to explain that to them, although as you can see, the lesson will show why it is that one. And here comes our cultural part, right? Which is where we have a lot of input, because obviously it's our culture that we are explaining to them. All right, so we have cultural collections. You can read this for yourself, and of course, all of you guys have this. For them, they do their title and then the name. So Manager Lee, Headmaster Lee. Obviously, no one does that. They don't call us Teacher Lisette or Teacher Robin or Teacher John, right? We go by Mrs. So and so or Miss so and so in our school system. So we explained that that's a bit rude in English. You don't go by a person's first name, especially if they're in a place of authority, and usually teachers are. So we go by a Mrs., a Mr., or a Ms., or any of the above. All right, so obviously we know this is a man and it's a Mr. That's pretty simple, straightforward. We don't have to confuse them because all the guys are Misters, right? Well, if they are a teacher, right? All the teacher guys are Mr. And then we have the girl. Obviously, she's young. We're not sure if she's married. We don't think she's married because she is a miss, right? So we explain to them that a teacher is a miss. But once she gets married, she is a Mrs., right? At this point, I would say, I'm married. Am I a miss or am I a Mrs.? And then they'll answer. They do know that pretty well. That they have gone over, and on most of the times I've done this, it's worked. All right, same thing is, next one is our Mr. Smith. He's still a Mr. He was a teacher. She is Miss Jones. This is Mrs. Brown. And I even ask them, I'll say, is Mrs. Jones married or not married? Is Mrs. Brown married or not married, right? And then they quickly are going to just show you some information about how to explain the first name, because we introduce our students as a first name basis, like David Robert Beckham you saw. Or was that the other way? Robert David Beckham? I'm not sure. No, I think it's David Robert Beckham. Yeah. All right. So the teacher introduces her or speaks to her students in just their first name. John, can you answer the next question? Or please close the window, Ellie. So that's how we'll explain that. To strangers, excuse me, miss. We don't say, well, miss. Yeah, we use miss, right? We're not sure if they're married is basically what I said. Because we're not sure they're married, we just say the miss. Can you tell me what time it is? And good afternoon, sir. We don't say good afternoon, mister. We say good afternoon, sir. Can I help you? Make note that you don't use the mister or the missus for strangers, because you're not sure if the miss is married or not. And the mister usually is followed by a name. So since we don't know the person's name, we say mister. All right, and then this is the end. They're going to do a quick role play. I let them usually do this in the groups themselves. So I'll say group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. All of you guys, can speak amongst yourself and try to do the role play. And then I'll ask them, does anybody want to try it? Hopefully by now they've gotten enough confidence in you and them, and they're feeling okay about the whole thing, that they will do the role play for you. But that's pretty much it. Like I said, I'm just giving you a little bit of feedback on what I did and what worked for me and what didn't work for me. So you guys will obviously take this to your own. That's the G7 introduction. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, I'm sure you can either WhatsApp Stella or not WhatsApp, but you can WeChat Stella. I'm on there too, so you can WeChat me as well. I know Aaron has done this with me as well, so you could always WeChat him. And I know we have the new groups, so if you have any questions about that, maybe you can go through your groups and say, hey girls, what do you think about this? Or hey boys, or hey everybody, hey guys, what do you think? All right, so thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope at least gives you a little bit of insight to what you can expect with the G7. Have a great weekend. I'm sure you can either WhatsApp Stella or not WhatsApp, but you can WeChat Stella. I'm on there too, so you can WeChat me as well. I know Aaron has done this with me as well, so you could always WeChat him. And I know we have the new groups, so if you have any questions about that, maybe you can go through your groups and say, hey girls, what do you think about this? Or hey boys, or or hey everybody, hey guys, what do you think? All right, so thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope at least gives you a little bit of insight to what you can expect with the G7. Have a great weekend.